Time to talk baseboard. Now, you may have a question. How am I going to install my baseboard and all of that kind of stuff? And that's what this video is about. Now this baseboard is about 5 inches tall. I kind of like that, having a taller base than the standard, maybe 2.5, 3 inch tall. Now on the inside corners, a lot of people say, hey, you should cope the inside corners. Well, if you have a whole house to do, you may have 100 to 150 inside corners to cope. And what they did here, they just cut these at 45-degree angles. This is a 45-degree cut right here and right here. They pushed them together and they caulked that. And you know, that's how I do all of my corners. Yeah, sometimes people say this wall here may not be 100% perfectly square to this wall. Well, if it's slightly off, it's not going to be very far off. And what you could do is when you cut your base, you could have two little pieces of base and cut a 45 on there and push them up into the corners. And if one is particularly very far off, you can tell what it is, and then you can make an adjustment so when you cut the full length base, you can cut it slightly off. But once you caulk it, it should be fine, especially on painted base such as this. Now see here, let's talk about this corner. Lots of times now, this house here is about 12 years old, and nowadays they're starting to put bullnose corners on here. Doesn't that look nice on the wall here? That's called a bullnose corner. But then the question is, how do you do your base around there? Now what they did here is they ran the baseboard up here on both sides, and then they cut a little piece. Every single outside corner has a little piece like this cut that starts from where it just starts curving from here to there. This piece is just a straight piece. And at this angle here, if you got a 90-degree corner like that, you've got to cut your base at 22.5 degrees here and here. That makes a 45. 22.5 and 22.5 is a 45, and then 22.5 and 22.5 is a 45 right there. So every little piece on the bullnose corners, they had to measure that and put a little piece like that, and then it goes doink, doink, doink like that. See, this is that's still, these joints are 22.5, and this over here is a 45 and a 45 because that's a 90-degree corner, see? And that's kind of how most people do that. Now sometimes you can get really slick. What I've done before is I took base here, and they actually have little contoured pieces that curve around and have this nicely curved right there. You have to buy individual pieces like that, and it doesn't fit for every single type of tall base. Like this one here has nice little trim right there. Well, you have to go to the store, and you might have to order those, or you go to a door company, let's say, and they'll tell you which ones are in stock on these corners as to which baseboard with the OG trim up here, because not all of them they can get those corners to, or they might have to special order them. And on those pieces, you put it up there, glue it in place, and then it's just square here and square there, and then the baseboard, you cut it square and it pushes right up tight to it here and over here, and then you have to do some shaving and contouring for whatever doesn't fit, you know, like with a Dremel set and a little palm sander and all that. But that really looks nice too. But, you know, they didn't do that here. Now, here's another thing. This is on a tile floor. And you might be wondering, what's this down here? Why did they have to do that? That doesn't look very nice. Well, you know, on all the base, that's what they've done. See there? And the reason why they've done that is, let me get you back here a little bit further. I'm going to show you another wall here. Right there. Now see how the tile, see, even with them putting this down here, this is the piece of trim that they put down, and that happens to be quarter round. It's just a quarter of a round piece of trim. That's why they call it quarter round. See the gap down here? Well, this is a tile floor, and the floor probably has a slight dip in here, which it does. And with this tall base, there's only so much you can do with tall base to push it down and try to fit it perfectly tight with the tiles, because what they did here is they installed the tile floor first before they installed the base. And there's a question for you. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? You know, do you install the base first and run that down and then push the tile up to it? Or do you have the tile installers install the tile first and then the base? Well, in this case, all of the tile got installed before the base. Then they ran this tall base here. They couldn't push it down far enough to keep everything nice and tight. So they used quarter round. And the quarter round is flexible to a certain extent. But it's not, you know, if you've got something too far, you can only push this down so far before it starts hitting on your tile somewhere else, or if you have a bow into it, or even like where your grout lines are. You know, this grout line here, it's going to slightly dip here. See, there's a very slight little bit of a gap right there. Well, that's how they decided to do this entire house. That's all I got for this time, but I'll be back with more videos.